In this video, I want to introduce something I've been thinking about for a while, and now that we have just crossed the midwinter here in the Northern Hemisphere, the midwinter time when things are just starting to stir under the ground, this energy for growth is starting to come back. I thought maybe this is the time to introduce this idea, which is to talk about our devotion to writing, to give it a little framework of the seasons, of walking through an entire year with our writing as we are progressing through the seasons, winter, spring, summer, and fall. And within each of those seasons, talk about, say, writing as winter. And I'll get into a little bit more of that further in the video, but as a way really to kind of really ground our devotion, our showing up to the page and creating in a very seasonal, very grounded way, both literal and metaphoric, that writing is like winter in that sometimes it's dormant, right? And writing is like spring, and that sometimes it is really growing. It has a lot of energy for growth. And so just to keep this in mind, again, is some way to bring it more, this idea of devotion and this practice that writing requires, that anything we want to create requires, this practice, this devotion, this attention of ours, as a way to keep this in our body and give us a little something to hang on to. So I'm thinking of it as a writing year circumambulation, that we'll walk through the seasons of our writing. And in this way, I hope that it will help you to cultivate what I think is essential, and that is a devoted practice that we need if we want to write, that we need to show up daily if we can. And I know life happens, things happen, we have responsibilities, we have jobs, we have families, we have pets, we have significant others, we have things going on in the world that draw our attention away. But really, if we're serious about creating, and we should be, because we're not just sitting down to write at a piece of paper or to paint a canvas. When we sit to create, when we make something, we are creating our own lives. We are the creators of our own lives. And what happens when we're not, when we're not consciously creating something, I believe, is that we go off, and because we are creative, always, everyone is, we go off and we create other things unconsciously, dramas, situations, right? So creativity for me has always been an expression of the divine that I am, of this creative energy that I am, that even when I settle down and quiet my mind, that images come, right? Visions, ideas, stories, pictures, memories, right? We're unstoppable as creators. We just are. It is the life energy pouring through us. And writing and creating music and photography, dancing, whatever it is a way to just channel this force and to watch it and to be with it and to cultivate this relationship. So what I want to talk about again in this video is how writing moves as life moves through the seasons, because writing is of this same life force that I was just describing. It is within us, and it is when we write something, we are just, that is just one expression, but it is a very focused expression of what we are, of a little flicker of what we are, this force that we are. Writing then doesn't move in a straight line, like we don't live in a straight line. It's not always ascending, and it doesn't always respond. In fact, rarely for me responds to force, and it can't be hurried. Writing happens in its own speed. However, it does respond to devotion. It does respond to my attention. It does show up, that inspiration or the ideas show up when I show up, because I show up. And that's the only way. Believe me, I spent years waiting for inspiration to happen. And it happened so infrequently that I wrote so very little for years and years. But in me was this hunger all the time to be writing. Finally, when I sat down and started to write and was devoted to it, and developed a strong practice that I have not broken in decades, that everything changed. That inspiration was there more often than not when I started to write. It wasn't something I had to wait around for. Our consistent showing up and attending to our work is what creates our life. So hello again and welcome to Devotion to Writing. This is a channel that is devoted to helping you cultivate a daily writing practice. I hope that it will help you move from writing block to creative awakening and from any fear and doubt that you may have about writing into flow. This is not a channel that is about writing to impress or to be as production or performance, but writing that in a way that helps you stay present, awake, and in relationship with your life and the creator that you are. Devotion is just a space that honors writing as a practice, and this practice changes shape over time. We adjust to accommodate our process, where we are in our life at any given time, but we keep our attention, our intention to write, and our attention on the page daily if we can. This is a way that we live and we work, constantly living with our writing. So I want to get back to this idea then of the seasons. Let's just introduce the seasons in general, and then in the next video I'll talk specifically about winter, because if you looked out my window you would see we are in full winter, deep snow. So just talking about the seasons, sometimes our writing is opening to new possibilities. Sometimes we're creatively feel dormant. Sometimes we feel like we're sprouting, new things are coming, growing. Sometimes we feel like our ideas have ripened, and then we are shedding as well. Shedding past ideas, shedding past behaviors, past patterns, beliefs, etc. And writing takes the form of our growth through the seasons. Right? And this isn't to say that we only feel growth in the spring. We could feel dormant in the spring. So I don't mean this in such a way that we can only feel growth in the spring and we only feel the harvest in the fall and that we only feel dormant in the winter. Again, I'm just putting this out there, this kind of idea of the seasons of writing as a way to ground and embody you, help you ground, embody your devoted practice. And just a way to move forward and to talk about writing and our process over the next, it's going to be 52 weeks because I want to make this pilgrimage, this kind of journey around the calendar with you and see if we can't generate and cultivate a writing practice throughout the season. So back to the writing. The writing itself, creativity, whatever we express takes the form of us because it's coming through us, and we put this filter in front of it when we express, which really means to push out through one's skin. When we express the idea, this urge that is in us, this love, this joy, the sadness, the grief, whatever it is, we push this form of expression through this filter onto a page, onto a canvas with colors, its movement, its gesture, whatever. And this gesture, color, poem holds us, what we were at that moment of expression, when we shined our attention wherever we shined it. And I love this idea. Again, it's so different than if we're just walking around and we're expressing whatever wells up in an unconscious way. When we're creating and we're conscious, then we are consciously directing this energy that we are, this creation that we are. We are consciously generating that and shining that where we want it on the page, into a story, the story that we're bringing forth, this poems we're bringing forth, the music that we're bringing forth, whatever. This page then holds that when we set it down. It holds that momentary expression. We do not, as I mentioned, write the same way in winter, literal and metaphoric winter, as we do in the summer. And that's something that we're going to look at. We're going to equate our writing to the seasons and see different ways that we write through the season. We do not ask the same of ourselves when we are in a dormant phase of writing as when we are in a growing phase of writing, right? The same way we don't eat and breathe and dress the same when the ground is frozen as when it is green, right? So I'm going to talk really briefly about each of these things as a way to introduce them. And then in the next video, we're going to get a little bit more deep into winter. And for the next several weeks, while it is still winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, we will talk a little bit about writing in the winter of, or in the winter of writing. But in the winter, say we bring up the stone. We as working here on my property, winter is the time to rebuild my stone walls. Things that have fallen down, of course, with the heaving ground, stones topple over. So winter is a nice time to get out there and put the stones back up. One stone a day. I have said that about our writing, that we can bring up one stone a day. That's equivalent to writing one page, one sentence even, making one small act of creativity per day, like me going up there and prying out the stones from the frozen ground and putting them back up. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You do this consistently day after day, and like I have, and I'll show you in the next video, build an entire stone wall. In the same way, in the winter, if we just lift one stone per day, we write one page per day, one paragraph per day. Over time, consistently doing this, you will accumulate a lot of work. Now, in my opinion, it's not always about the accumulation of something, right? But we are practicing. We are getting material on the page which we then can work with. And also we are, when we're getting it on the page, as I just mentioned, we are recording, we are giving form, we're giving shape to that moment when we were here. When we were here at the page, you are giving form to that moment. Honor that, right? Honor that. And you can only do that by showing up consciously. The work that we do in the winter, we do quietly, we do repeatedly, and we do it often alone without witness. We just go pick up that heavy stone and put it on the wall. Writing is like that. We come, we sit, we are alone, we are in a room, and we write to ourselves. We write what is in us, what is coming to us, what is bubbling up, what is hungry, what is urging. So walls, gardens, etc., they are not built in one flash of brilliance. They are made by returning and paying attention, giving our attention. So winter is showing up, and it's endurance. It's cold out. The ground is frozen. You got to dress up to do it. It's heavy work, but it's essential. And things now are starting to move. As I said, under the ground, we've reached midwinter and things are starting to move. So we're moving towards spring. When we tend to the ground in spring, we care. We start to care. We turn the soil. We nurture things. We look at the little buds coming up and we want to protect these things. It's like the beginning of our writing. We have these stones we have put on the page, or I'm going to switch metaphors here. We have these seeds that we put in the ground. These bulbs maybe we planted, and now they're starting to sprout, and we notice them. We resist the urge to cut them. We give them some protection, right? We see what has survived the winter. We listen. We listen to what needs to happen, and that is often what is the case early in our writing process. We need to just listen. We need to let things grow, to come up, in order to see what we have, to see what is there, to see what wants more of our attention, what needs to be staked and supported. And then, of course, in summer, it's full grown. And when we reach this stage with our writing, perhaps we've been writing for months and we have accumulated a lot of material and our ideas are flowing. We can also start to feel like it's a bit, it's hot, it's demanding. Maybe we feel like it's just ordinary. The blooms are starting to fade. Things, especially midsummer, they start to get tired, right? And this too can be like our own writing process, is that sometimes we are exhausted. Sometimes we've put out so much growth that, things are starting to droop over. And that's okay. This is just part of the writing too. to find out, where we need to just step back from things, to take a rest, and be present too with all the production, all the growth that we have made in our writing. So really, summer we could think of as just an opportunity to be present with all of the work that we have made. And then the fall is we receive. We have the ripening, we have the harvest, but we don't take anything premature. We don't take anything that is not ready. We see the abundance that we have made, that our consistent showing up, our effort, our work, our tending, our watering, our feeding, that's attention. We feed with our attention. We have grown all of these things, and now we have all of this material, even things that don't make, and I'm not talking about we have all of this material to harvest to make a book. Even looking at it as this, I have lived through this. Here is this evidence of all of this creativity, all of that has happened to me over these many, many months of showing up, of devoting myself to just naming what is happening, what is going on, what is urging in me, what is urgent. Here, all of this is so wondrous. And you don't need to necessarily do anything with it. The harvest is yours. The abundance is yours. This is, I don't know, that in and of itself could be very gratifying, and certainly is and should be gratifying. Also, it's an opportunity, if you want now, you have all of this material. You have grown all of this work, and now in the fall, we kind of start to cut things back. We prune, and we get things into the shape that perhaps we then share this bounty with others. Again, I am not saying that writing is absolutely lined up with the seasons. I'm just using this as a structure to think about your writing practice in the long term, not just today, though I do want you to come to the page today, but not just today, but tomorrow and the next day, and in the spring, and in July, and in November, to keep coming, because this practice is everything. The devotion, the practice, it is what grows your creativity, your writing. If you want to write, this is what's going to get you writing, keep you writing, and sustain you in the long run. It is about relationship. So trust that over time, the meaning of what you're writing will emerge, the shape of what you're writing will emerge. Just trust that showing up is going to change you. It is going to change your work, even if nothing seems to be happening. Just trust this. Trust that writing knows that you know more than you know, right? And we are also, I think, by equating this with the seasons, we're kind of refusing this myth of constant productivity, that we just have to be productive all the time, and certainly that we have to rush, refusing this pressure to kind of harvest something before it's season, before it is time, and that we are just equating a very physical experience of walking a year around the sun, a year through the seasons, a year in ourselves with our writing, refusing to confuse speed and productivity with creativity. Instead, we're just choosing a rhythm. We're choosing patience, and we are choosing to live with our work, to carry it with us through a year. So this year, and next year, and the next year, because this carrying the work with us is the work, is the creative work. So keep the seasons in mind as you keep your practice, and in the next video I'm going to focus on the winter specifically. So I hope you make this journey with me, and that you start writing today, that you bring up just one stone today and you lay that on the foundation, because this is going to be your future upon which your next writing is going to be placed upon. So pry out that dormant, frozen stone, wherever you are with your words, with your sentences, with your stories, and just put one thing down on the page. And to help you perhaps with that, a prompt might be, what is frozen in you? Or what is buried beneath the snow? What is waiting in the dark for your attention? Try one of those. If you do write something and you want to share it with me, I'd love to see it. Put it in the comments, or you can always message me. You could go to devotiontowriting.com and you can message me there through that website. Also there, I want to mention that you can see upcoming workshops online. I have the next one is February 17th. And then the one after that will be beginning in the end of March. But anyway, I have throughout the year online workshops to help you cultivate your writing practice, overcome writer's block, and move through fear and doubt into flow. You can find out about those there at devotiontowriting.com. If you like this video, please subscribe. That will help spread the word so that others also can enjoy it. So I hope that you write today. I hope you write deeply today. And I know that if you do write, you will write beautifully, because beautiful is what you are. Blessings.